Hello, good morning. Today we are going to discuss about electrical activity of brain. Electrical activity is suppose we receive stimulus, whether it is a visual stimulus, auditory stimulus, or somatosensory stimulus. Certain waveforms are found in the brain, and this we record it. And this is known as electrical activity in the brain. It shows in the form of wave. Suppose we are seeing something, that visual signals are received and they go to the concerned area in the cerebral cortex. Separate visual stimuli, area number primary, visual area number 17. Like that, auditory stimulus, auditory area. Somatosensory stimulus, it may reach the area. Sensory stimulus, whatever sensory the endings are there. Suppose ascending tracts carry the sensory nerve endings, and they terminate in the area number 3, 1, 4. Therefore, they terminate there. Therefore, here it shows the electrical activity in that. It will show the electrical activity in that particular region. The different waveforms will be seen. Yeah, we are there. Usually, we measure. They are given the negative waves and positive waves. Usually, we measure P100 waveform, which is a positive wave, and we have a standard measurement for that P100. That is amplitude, duration, amplitude, all these things we have, and latent period, all these things we have for that particular wave, P100 wave. And suppose there's any deviation from the normal, then we can say that it helps in the diagnosis. Suppose in the visual pathway there's some abnormality in the P100 wave, and therefore what happens is we come to know that there's some abnormality. The exact abnormality may not be shown by it, but other methods of diagnostic procedures also are there, and therefore it helps. All the diagnostic procedures have to be taken together, and we have to finally come to a diagnosis. We cannot rely upon a single diagnostic procedure. Therefore, it helps in the co-diagnosis of that particular disease. If we are doing some 5 or 6 diagnostic tests, and out of this 4 are in favor of that, then we go in for that diagnosis closely. We think that the cases are that diagnosis. Now let's see how the different types of stimulus are there. The auditory, visual, and somatosensory are the main stimulus. And again here we have got the diffuse form and localized form also. Localized, that is only it is the stimulus is localized only to one area. We record the electrical activity of brain only from that localized area. And the diffuse form, from a wide range of area, we record the electrical activity. That is a diffuse and localized. Localized is a short duration, diffuse is a long duration, and these things we'll be discussing in a classes. Therefore, let's start the electrical activity of brain, how it goes. There are surface electrical activities. Suppose we keep electrodes. Electrodes are kept. Suppose hospital area we want to find out the electrical activity. Therefore, electrodes are kept in that specific area. Therefore, it is mainly evoked potentials they are called. We are giving a stimulus and we are seeing what potentials are rising out of it, and then we are recording on a graph. We are seeing in a computer monitoring in the computer. Therefore, these are electrical activity recorded from this surface of the brain, surface of the cerebral cortex, in response to a specific, whether it may be auditory or it may be auditory, or it may be a visual stimuli or somatosensory stimuli. In response to a specific, the stimulus should also be adequate and specific. Adequate and specific stimuli, just like Maslin nerve transmission, the stimuli cannot be subthreshold. The stimuli should be adequate. There are 2 types of stimulus, specific stimulus. That stimulus is of 2 types. And these 2 are, let's see what are these. Primary evoked potential. These are primary evoked potential. Another is diffuse secondary response. Stimulus, we are giving a adequate stimulus. These two types of electrical activity are seen in the brain. Two types of electrical activity when give a stimulus, whether it may be a auditory, visual, or somatosensory. That what there is a primary, the potentials above primary and secondary. Secondary, that is diffuse secondary. Primary is only, it is localized to a specific area. Primary is localized to a specific area. It is a shorter duration. Duration is also short. It is a localized area, and here it is a diffuse. The stimulus, the surrounding areas are also activated. Diffuse. This is due to the transmission by the reticular activating system. That is surrounding. It is from more or less pinpoint like localized, short duration, long duration, and it is a diffused. The surrounding areas are also activated. That whatever the waves we get, that we get from surrounding areas also. Here it's only a primary, that is localized, pinpoint. And suppose if we are seeing from a localized area, here suppose localized area, this is a primary. Suppose we are seeing from a surrounding, a little bit more surrounding area, then we call it as a diffuse. Yeah, the stimuli are coming from the other areas also. Diffuse is coming only from diffuse, localized. Only one wave pattern we have seen the localized type. Here is the P100 wave. It is a localized stimulus. Here we see this electrical, it is a diffuse. The other areas also activated. That is primary stimulus is a brief, initial brief localized, and it lasts only for a few milliseconds. It is a localized, highly specific. It is specific to that area. It is highly specific that other surrounding areas are not involved. It is highly specific, localized, and short duration. These 3 points we have. Primary stimuli is a localized stimuli. It is only for stays only for a brief period, a few milliseconds. Highly specific. That is the location is specific. That is the other areas diffuse. The areas surrounding it are not excited. And it is high specific and observed only where this wave pattern is observed only from the pathway from a particular sensory organs. That means suppose this vibration sense, posterior columns vibration sense is ending in the area number 314, primary sensory cortex. Therefore, this response will be seen only in that area, that is specific in its location. The other areas will not be the pathway, the posterior column pathway. It does not cross to the opposite. It ends in the same, and then medulla oblongata it crosses, then go to the thalamus, and then it go to the area number 314. Here, it is only the pathway from it is highly specific, and this travels and it shows the activities in this pathway only, specific. It doesn't show any other things. I hope you have understood. Highly localized, duration short, and highly specific. Whatever the pathway is there, it is showing the activity of only that pathway, not other pathways. Now the secondary reason. Latency is about 20 to 80 milliseconds. Positive negative sequence can be seen. And this is about secondary, diffuse response. This is a primary about diffuse. I'm talking about the diffuse. Latency in the diffuse is about 20 to 80 milliseconds. That is, the duration is long. That is, there it was only a few milliseconds. Here it is 20 to 80 milliseconds. And here also you see positive, negative waves. Positive waves are P waves, negative waves are N waves. The response is not localized. Response is larger, more prolonged. This is about secondary diffusion. Secondary diffuse response. Latency is longer. This is secondary diffuse latency is longer. Their latency was only a few milliseconds. Positive negative sequence is there. These waves are also larger. And there's a diffuse response, more prolonged. It is a more prolonged, it's not of short duration than the primary evaporative potential. Therefore, this is the difference between the primary evaporative potential and the primary evaporative response and the secondary negative response. This diffuse secondary response. It is not localized. This response is also recorded. This is diffused because the response comes from the other parts of cerebral cortex also. Other part of cerebral cortex also. From other parts of cerebral cortex also the response is coming. This is due to spread of impulses. That is, reticular activating system is activating the other parts of the cerebral cortex, and some of these impulses are also being recorded in secondary response. Some of the in the secondary response, diffuse secondary response, the activities of reticular activating system is also being because it is sending a few signals to that area also. That is also being recorded, and because and duration is long, response, the wave pattern is also more, negative and positive waves are more amplitude. Therefore, this is a response is spread to surrounding part through reticular activating system. Now let's see what is the divisions about this, of the classification depending on the type of stimuli. Types of evaporative potential stimuli. Depending on the type, we'll classify according to the this mid latency period, short latency period, and this thing then. Now, depending upon the types, what we this visually evocative. That is visual signals, brainstem auditory stimulus, brainstem auditory evocative potentials, visually evocative potentials, somatosensory evocative potential. Visually evocative potential come to the eye, stimulus is coming through the eyes, brainstem artery is through the cochlea, division of the eighth cranial nerve, and sensory from the sensory stimulus from the parts of the body. Now this and depending on the type we have visual, auditory, and also somatosensory. That's another class. Depending upon the latency also, we can classify them. The latency is latent period. The response of the evocative potential, that is after you have given a stimulus, or the time taken for the response to be shown. That is, if you are given a stimulus, immediately response will not be there. A short latent period will be there, time taken for the waves to travel through the different synapses and all these things. Now we have, in this way, depending upon the latency, we have classified as stimulus related. Stimulus related is of short latency, mid and long latency. Event related and that we have got two types: stimulus related and event related. First was visual, auditory, somatosensory. Now it is stimulus related and event related. Event related. The event related. Yeah, see this we are here in this figure. They are giving a visual stimulus. Visual stimulus. Visual stimulus is being given here, and through the amplifier, it is being recorded on a graph. P waves. These are the waves N1. These are the waves, different types. So here visual stimulus is given, help of an amplifier. This is being recorded. Now the event related, stimulus related. Now what is the event related potential? This mainly depends upon the subject's level of arousal, that is his alertness. The subject should be a level of alertness, how much alert he is. It is required to distinguish. These are recorded, that is event related are only recorded when he has to distinguish between whatever stimuli the person, the diagnostic person want to distinguish from the other. So suppose we want to distinguish one type of stimuli in the person, target stimuli from the others. Therefore, it is used in this. Therefore, for that arousal should is done. They recorded only subjects required to distinguish target stimuli from the others. That is, he can identify. He should be able to identify different types of stimuli from the subject. Suppose you are testing for some pain or something, you should be able to distinguish whether target stimuli from the other. That is, he should be able to distinguish the levels of the amplitude. All these things he has to, when we are recording the amplitude, will come to know his level of recognition. Therefore, from the others he has to distinguish. This is event related. This is mainly useful for testing cognitive behavior of the person, diagnosis of dementia. Dementia, that is, a patient is in a dementia condition, and delirium is not in fully conscious state, and therefore we want to know the level of his wakefulness or arousal. Therefore, different stimuli and all these things will be giving, and we'll see his levels, how much he can come out of this, whether he can come out of this or he'll be landing into a more serious condition, coma. Suppose there's a coma, dementia, there's a how much damage has been done, whether the conduction power and all this is stimuli. He can distinguish between different types of stimuli, judgment, orientation, and memory. Stimulus related, that is event related, we have discussed. Now stimulus related. Functional integrity. These are mainly to know the, suppose there's a pathway is there, and this pathway is traveling from the receptors. Pressure receptors, Pacinian capsules, for example, they are receiving the pressure receptors. We come to know about the, and then travel to the cortex. Therefore, any delay in conduction, suppose there's some delay in conduction, then we'll be able to know. Therefore, it's only a integrity. Suppose a visual pathway is there, then there from the visual pathway to the area number 17, primary visual cortex, the pathway where it ends. Therefore, in this pathway, if there are any defect in the pathway, we will be able to know, but we cannot pinpoint the disease. We cannot pinpoint where the defect is. We can only say that the defect is there in the pathway. We have to adopt other methods for the diagnosing the to pinpoint the specific defect and which area and what can be done next on this thing. But primarily we'll be coming to know there's a defect in that pathway. A defect in the pathway in a generalized manner has been detected. It has to be supported with other investigation procedures to go for further treatment. Say the visually evoked potential. Say you are seeing something. Visually evoked potentials. Yeah, you are seeing something. Yeah, visually left eye field, temporal half, nasal half, optic nerve, nasal half crossing to the here, nasal half crossing in the midline, temporal half going there, lateral genuflate body, Hearing is concerned with medial genuflate body. Vision is concerned with lateral genuflate body. Is in the primary visual area number 17, association areas, area number 18 and 19. This is the visual field of rightness. Suppose there is any defect The pathway starts from here and here is ending here, is ending here. Here in this region, area number 17 it's ending. Suppose there's any defect, we'll be coming to know the defect in the visual pathway. But pinpointing the defect, whether it's here or here or here, it will not possible. And then we have to go in for further investigations. And for visually evoked potentials. Visually evoked potentials. The stimulus is light or any other stimulation of eyes. You keep the patient sit there and you connect the electrodes to the occipital region. And we have this. We have a stimulator. We have a monitoring device. We have an amplifier. And here, first light stimulation of eyes. And then stimulation, this reaches retina. Suppose a light, we are stimulated with a light. It reaches retina and finally crossing all these areas, just now what I have told you, lateral genital body, all these things. They finally reach the visual cortex, area number 17. Therefore, as I have said, they can only detect the abnormality. If there's any abnormality in this pathway, they can detect, but cannot localize the site. Localization of site, we have to go in for different methods. Different methods are there to localize the site of lesion. There's the light. Here, the eyes are there. The light is there. Eyes, we are stimulating it. The pathway, it's going. So the cerebral cortex, it is going to the area number 17. This is the pathway. So when we have stimulated the eyes, the visual pathway, a chain of waves are produced. And yeah, M145, P100, all these things, a chain of waves are produced at various latencies. Yeah. It is the amplitude in volts, microvolts. Latency in milliseconds. Here one. This is a immediately short latency. This is 100 meters. Less than 100 meters is mid latency. More than 100 meters, I think, late latency. Therefore, this is short latency. Immediately we get less than 100 meters, mid latency, late latency. Chain of waves are produced here. And this P100 wavelength normally, what is the normal P100 wavelength? That is fixed. And therefore when we are doing, after we have done this test, we compare with the normal wavelengths. We compare with the normal wavelengths. Just like ECG, we compare with the normal wavelength. And if there's any abnormality, we come to know. Abnormality is observed in the latency. Abnormality is observed in the latency. That is the response. Whether it is an immediate response, mid response, or late response. Therefore, abnormalities may be in the response. We have a definite pattern. We know at what time the early latency should be there, at what time mid latency wave should come, at what time the late latency wave should. Therefore, any change, any deviation from the normal pattern, we take it as a granted that is an abnormal type. And amplitude is also fixed. And these are also help if there's any change in the amplitude from the normal wave pattern. Amplitude of a normal wave patterns are fixed, and therefore, if there's any abnormality, we come to know that there's some defect in the pathway of diagnostic. These are various. Therefore, we can think about what is the cause of this abnormality. And this abnormalities in latency and amplitude may be seen in optic neuritis, optic atrophy, refractive errors also, myopia, hypermetropia, presbyopia, all these refractive errors, and also in color blindness. Yeah, in the case of optic neuritis. Yeah, abnormal waveform is seen. Abnormal waveform. Therefore, it is a short latency. Yeah, this is the short latency, mid latency, and low latency. Yeah, it's abnormal waveforms. Therefore, by experience, we know that by studying the normal, we have to first know what is normal. We have to study properly what is normal, and then we'll be able to compare with the whatever picture we have taken, whether it is normal. It's similar like ECG. Unless you know the normal ECG, if you look at the ECG, you will not understand anything. Therefore, you have to know what is the PR wave pattern, what is the wave pattern in different leads, and where the T waves get inverted, and all these things you have to know properly. Then only if an ECG graph is presented to you, you will be able to say whether it is suffering from anything. Whether there's a left bundle branch block or right bundle branch block or anything, delayed in conductions. All these things you will be early myocardial infarction stage. All these things you will be able to know. If you don't know anything about normal, nothing, you will not be able to. This is equal to a blank paper. And here's the method of which we see the visually evoked pattern. Here the person is sitting here. The person is sitting here. Electrodes are applied to the occipital area. Electrodes are applied to the occipital area. And this is a stimulus is given from here to this eyes. And the stimulator here is the different stimulator. Here we can, with the operator, can stimulate him with a different this thing, amplitude and all this thing. He can control the stimulation. He control the stimulation from here. And this when he stimulates from here, the eyes, a definite wave pattern will be produced in the eye. These are amplified. They are amplified and they are converted in AD converter, and from there they are displayed on the monitor screen. If you want, you can take a this thing graph. These are displayed on a graph printed pattern. We can take a printed map, and this is the how it happens. Regarding scalp electrodes are placed over cerebral cortex. Scalp electrodes, cortex. Regarding a scalp electrodes are placed over visually evoked potentials. Scalp electrodes are placed over cerebral cortex, occipital area, and all these things. Particularly occipital area. Visual stimulus given to subject. Stimulus, I told you, the stimulator is there. Subject select a number of times. The operator sits there and gives stimulus at a selected number of times. At a definite interval, select a number of times. And this, since we have stimulated visual cortex, cerebral cortex, because we are going in for visually evoked potential, we have stimulated the visual cortex area. Visual cortex area number 17, 18, 19, all these things are visual cortex. Therefore, 17 is the primary visual cortex. Here, what happens then? Generation of activities occurs. This is a special generation, specific type of stimuli. Specific reason we are stimulating. That causes generation of activities in that area, only in that area. And these are amplified with an amplifier, and then it is displayed in the averaged and computer display of the computer. And this oscilloscope screen, it may be displayed. If you want, you can take a printed paper. Therefore, first we have to do is collect electrodes of the cerebral cortex, visual cortex area. Then stimulus is given from a stimulator from a selected number of times. And this causes activation of the visual cortex. And this visual cortex responses, this is connected to a monitor. The electrodes, after the electrodes on the cerebral cortex area, visual cortex area, they are connected to a monitor. The responses, the wave patterns, cerebral responses are increased, amplified. And in the computer, it is displayed in the printed paper. The placement of this occipital cortex is a master process. Here, these three electrodes are kept. We have a specific color for each electrode, and at least 5 centimeters gap should be there in this region. The electrodes also contain the lateral ganthite here on either side, and here. This is the procedure. The waveforms, we have 3 main waves. The negative waves are donated by N waves. N75 and N130, 145 or 135. Here picture 135 is shown. Commonly seen waveforms are negative waves, 2 negative waves, N75 and N145. Positive wave is P100. Negative waves we give a name N and positive is by P. They were commonly seen waves are N75, N145, P100. N75, P100 and 145 C. The peak latency, duration and amplitudes of P100 are usually measured. We usually take into consideration P100. Peak, that is the amplitude. When the amplitude, latency, how much time after giving a stimulus, the wave is starting. That is the latency. The latency, the time of taking between the stimulus and the action, and also the amplitude, the height of the wave, etc. measured. Duration, time duration of the wave, usually P100 we take into consideration. Now let's see what are the normal values of P100. The normal values of P100, latency is usually 100 milliseconds. Therefore, it comes in the mid latency period. Mid latency is less than 100. Therefore, it's coming in the mid latency period. Amplitude is a normal. This is all normal. 11 microvolts. 100 milliseconds, 11 microvolts. And duration, time duration is 60 milliseconds. Therefore, this should be any alteration from this, we take it as a abnormal. These are the normal values of P100, and we usually N75 and N145. Usually we don't consider, we consider P100, and this latency is 100 milliseconds, and amplitude of 11 microvolts. Duration 16. These are the basis of this VIPSA. That is from which area this evoked potentials, visually evoked potentials arise. That is the result we want to know. From where we are getting this visually evoked. We have put electrodes in different areas in the hospital cortex. From where N75 results from mainly this N75 waves are seen when the foveal stimulation in the foveal region of the eye, if it is stimulated, we get this N75 waves, and its origin is from the primary artery cortex, area number 70. Therefore, when do we see an N75 waves? When the light goes and stimulates the foveal area of the eyes, and then the response originates in area 17. The wave response is seen in area number 17, primary artery, primary visual cortex. And P100 which we measure usually, this arises from area number 19, that is visual associated area, and also from primary artery, primary visual cortex, that is area number 17. Primary visual cortex, and also from area number 19, which is an association area, visual association area. Therefore, from primary 17 and 19 we get P100. N145 area is from 18. This is also a visually associated area. Therefore, the normal values of P100 are 100 milliseconds, 11 microvolts, 60 milliseconds duration, amplitude. This you have to remember. And usually we measure normal values of P100, and the origin point is 19 and 17. 17 is the primary visual area, 19 is the visual association area. Yeah, P100 waves are generated by activities. These waves are due to primary visual cortex area number 17 and area surrounding the visual cortex. That is, I has already seen the area number 19. That is visual cortex, occipital area, visual cortex. Thalamocortical fibers from the visual cortex. These thalamocortical fibers and thalamus to the cerebral cortex. So area surrounding the visual cortex. That is thalamocortical fibers are surrounding the visual cortex area. This area also gets stimulated. Yeah, we have seen two types of wave pattern. There are small ganglion cells and the large ganglion cells of retina. The small ganglion cells are there, they form the optic nerve, and the small ganglion cells. We see in the last layer, small ganglion cells. That layers of retina, the 10 layers, we have got the ganglionic cell layer also. Therefore, there are small ganglionic cells and the large ganglionic cells. The small ganglionic cells called P cells and the large ganglionic cells are called mu cells. Small ganglionic cells are called P cells, and the large ganglion cells are called mu cells. They provide the base for generating pattern visually evoked potentials. Pattern, a definite pattern is formed. A pattern visual, right eye, left eye. Right eye, left eye. That is generating visually evoked potential and generating in a pattern. Yeah, the large ganglion cells of retina via geniculate pathway, lateral geniculate pathway. Here, the large ganglionic cells that travel via the extrageniculate pathway and they provide the base for generating flash VAPs. Visually evoked potential, flash VAPs. Suddenly, extra flash VAPs means visually evoked potential. These are called flash VAPs. Large ganglionic cells known as mu cells, they are extrageniculate pathway for the base for these are flash wave, large for flash visually evoked potential, small for pattern VAPs. The visually evoked potentials that represent the activity originating in the central visual field. That is, whatever activity is there in the central visual field. And this visual field, central visual field, is connected to the surface of the occipital cortex. That is primary visual area, occipital cortex 17. Therefore, the visual evoked potential is a representation of the activities occurring in the primary visual field. And these are usually the active origin central visual field. VAPs represent the activities originating in the central visual field. Therefore, first whatever activities we see, the main activities are from the central visual field. And these are displayed in the occipital cortex and then we record it in the waveform. So what happens to the peripheral retina? The activities originating from the peripheral retina, the central visual field, where whatever the activities is there, is connected to the occipital cortex. Okay, the activities originating from the peripheral retina. Whatever activities originating from the peripheral directed deeper regions, they go to the deeper regions of visual cortex, and this in turn attenuates the visual evoked potential, visual evoked potential. That is primarily visual evoked potentials activates come from central visual field. They don't come from peripheral visual field. First, the activities that we see come from central visual field, main activities. The visually evoked potentials in the occipital cortex come from central visual field. The visually evoked potentials are recorded by the are due to the activities produced in the occipital cortex, mainly in the visual area, primary visual area, and this we see. And suppose the activities, what happens to the activities originating in the peripheral retina? The activities originating from the peripheral retina can occur only after stimulation of the peripheral retina. Unless the peripheral retina is stimulated, the activities will not go to the deeper regions of the visual cortex. The activities originating from the peripheral retina will not go to deeper regions of visual cortex unless they have been activated. Can occur only after peripheral retinal activation. And this in turn, when they go to the deeper regions of the visual cortex, suppose we have activated peripheral retina also, directed to the deeper regions of visual cortex, and this in turn potentiates the activity of VEP, visually active potential. This in turn activates visual active potential. Therefore, unless peripheral retina is activated, the primary visually evoked potentials are only from the central visual field. Now, after the peripheral retina has been activated, then this is also increased. That is, the stimuli coming from them also increases the shows wave patterns in the visual active potential in the primary area. I hope you have understood. The nutshell is that first only the visual active potentials that we see is a representation of the central visual field of the retina. And suppose the peripheral retina has to be activated. If you want to see the visually evoked potential, therefore the activities originating, suppose the peripheral retina have been activated, and this stimuli go to the deeper regions of visual cortex. They penetrate deeper, and then in turn strengthens the activities of visual active potential of the primary active, whatever areas this primary activity is in that area, it increases the visual activity potential. Now let's see what are the factors affecting visually active potentials. These potentials can be activated, these visual potentials, the amplitude by age, gender. The amplitude of P100 is high in infants and children. Adult value is reached only in 5 to 7 years. Only when he reaches the age of 5 to 7 years, the adult value is reached. Initially, the amplitude of P100 is higher than the normal picture we have shown. It is higher than that. It reaches the normal picture only when the child reaches the age of 5 to 7 years. After 50 years, amplitude decreases. The amplitude of P100 decreases. And suppose a gender, male's P100 latency is longer. In male, the latent period of P100 wave formation is longer. And whereas in females, P100 amplitude is greater. And coming to drugs which cause pupillary constriction, so pilocarpine drugs causing pupillary constriction, pilocarpine drugs increases P100 latency because there's a constriction of the pupil, and there's a decreased area of retinal illumination. Pilocarpine process constriction of the pupil, and therefore what has happened? Decreased area of retinal illumination. Therefore, what happens? P100 latency period is increased. Suppose there's a pupillary dilatation. We are dilating the atropine drops. Pupillary dilatation. And this decreases P100 latency because there's a more ventilation is more area is illuminated. P100 latency is decreased. Eye dominance. Amplitude of P100 is shorter in dominant eye. Amplitude of P100 is shorter in dominant eye. And then suppose we are moving the eye. And P100 decreases during eye movements. P100 shorter in dominant eye. And suppose we are moving the eye, the amplitude of P100 decreases. but latency is normal. Now abnormalities are visually evoked potentials. What are the abnormalities? Let us see. What is the importance? We are not doing we are not taking visually evoked potential just for fun. There should be a definite aim for this, for doing that. We want to diagnose something. We want to find out some abnormalities in the person. According to his complaint, we go in for the test. Therefore, what are the abnormal probabilities? So we know the normal picture. And then suppose we take a visually active potentials. So by looking at the graph, we should come to a conclusion whether the person, this visually active potential waves are normal or abnormal. Therefore, that's the importance of finding out about this visually active potential. That is prolongation of P100 latency. So there's a from a normal P100 latency, there's a prolongation. It is seen mainly in demyelination of optic pathway. Myelination defects of optic pathway. Suppose the amplitude is reduced, P100. There's a height of the wave is reduced. Prolongation latency means there's a more latent period is increased. Latent period from giving the stimulus to the action, latency period is increased. This is seen in demyelination. Amplitude reduction. Suppose the amplitude is reduced, height in ischemic. This is seen in ischemic optic neuropathy. Ischemic optic neuropathy causes axonal loss. This may cause axonal loss. This is also seen in refractive errors, lens opacity, and retinal disease. Amplitude reduction and all these things. So you have to keep in mind all this disease, and you have to know what happens in which disease, what increases in which disease, what decreases in which disease, and what is normal and what is abnormal. This you have to bear in mind. These are different wave patterns, and we have to study from we have to take a normal wave and you have to keep it and you have to study. Combined latency and amplitude defect may seen in optic nerve compression. Optic nerve compression can cause combined latency amplitude defects. This optic nerve compression may cause segmental demyelination and axonal loss. Optic nerve decompression may cause segmental demyelination and axonal loss. Shape abnormalities, that is a bifid peaks in the waves. Suppose a wave is having two peaks. Like a wave is like this, it may having two peaks like this. Therefore, this may be seen. That is, two peaks in a P100 wave indicates abnormality. Clinical usefulness. Visually about study provides a sensitive method for diagnosing abnormalities in visual pathway. Abnormalities in visual pathway. We can know abnormalities, but we cannot pinpoint where the disease is. And especially in anterior visual pathway to the optic chiasma. VAP visually about potential branches are mostly non-specific. They are not specific. You cannot go in for a direct diagnosis with this. The other supportive, we have to go in for another diagnosis. It helps only in adding to the diagnosis. Suppose there's a doubt, we go in for other diagnosis. Just adds the other diagnostic procedures are there. Along with it, this has to be done. We can, because it's not specific, we cannot go in directly with this single test. We cannot go in for diagnosis. The diagnostic value is we go in for this test, visually evoked potentials, finding out visually evoked potentials. In demyelinating disease, myelination defects, ischemic optic neuropathy, ischemia optic nerve, nutritional and toxic optic neuropathies, some toxic, hereditary and degenerative disease, some hereditary disease, lesions affecting anterior visual pathway and cortical blindness. And some of these diseases which we can try visually evoked potentials with other tests. This can also be done. Okay, next class we'll be dealing with the brainstem auditory evoked potentials. Okay, thank you. Please read your theory thoroughly because you'll be facing the exams and you may not have much time to read after you come back to the college. Because it's all indefinite, we don't know when you are coming. Therefore, you please be thorough with the theory. Theory you should be thorough. All important topics we have already made you write assignments and all. Those assignment topics are all important, and therefore please read theory thoroughly, and then they can practicals also. We are trying to tell you in the via this thing, but I don't know how much you are understanding about it. But be thorough in the theory and read practical book also, because you'll be answering the Viva questions and practicals. The questions will be mostly from that practical book only. Okay, thank you. All the best.